this way. I'm going to pick up this beginnings of a rebar rock. This was done, I think, by a student at the recent spring training we had up here in Alpine Kansas Sky Studio. Start off with 5-foot sticks, and you bend them with your knee. As you've seen in many of my other videos, but we'll do a demo for that. And you just add pieces till you get the shape you want. Okay, so this was made by a student who'd never done it before, and so this is something everyone can do. It takes a little muscle, but you can bend these pieces of rebar into the shapes you want to do. And again, this is a small rock. Realize this is much smaller than our dirt rock, so really the rebar is for making stones or boulders that are much bigger than just the pile of dirt. Pile of dirt is so simple, and like I showed you also at previous sessions with cinder blocks, you can make a cinder block perimeter, fill that up with dirt or anything, any filler that can hold the weight of the concrete, and you'll have a nice sized boulder. It can be the size of a nice little bench to sit on. So this is a small rock. It's harder to do when they're smaller because all the bends are smaller. When you're doing bigger rocks, you use a 10-foot stick, and that would be something like this. So to show you how easy it is to bend them, you have your arms out wide enough, and then you don't need to use your arms so much. You just put it on your knee. This is what I do, right? And I keep my arms straight, right? I kept my arm, this arm was totally straight, and I just pulled a little, and that's how tight of a bend you can get. With the rebar bender cutter, you can make that super tight, as we have demonstrated in the other videos that are part of this. We're going to be doing another thing here, showing you a larger bench seat rock. Again, bigger rocks are best done with rebar, but you can do pretty darn big ones just using the dirt pile technique. Hey, what's going on? Mr. Dave here. Talking about rebar, talking about making fake rocks. A lot of guys have asked me about how I do that, and particularly when they're just trying to make a single stone. We're here on the Alpine job, monster job. You got to check out the videos on my YouTube channel. It's pretty crazy. But in this case, this is a good place and a good time to start talking about how we do it with a single piece of rebar, and then add to that to make these small little rocks, or even the bigger ones. They all start with the same process. You create the footprint, that is the amount of space that the rock would sit on the ground, what it would look like, and then you bend up rebar and begin to figure out the shape. So I got 2 sticks of rebar, and I'd like to show you how I do that. So I use 3/8 inch rebar, and this is what it is. I have trouble focusing on that. So the beginning stages, and I like to do as many bends as I can before I tie it off, because it's easier to do, from my experience anyway. So when I do it with my knees, some people think that's a little crazy, but for some reason it doesn't bother me at all. You start off with a bend, right? So we've got a little bit of a bend. It's not exactly 90 degrees, so I'm going to come in a little closer, and then I like it coming out. Since I got 2 sticks, I got enough room to come over here. So I'm kind of remembering where that is. This is going to be the part that's laying on the ground flat. Understand? That makes sense? So you can still keep shaping it and playing with it. Again, this is the part that's laying on the ground. The trick is to watch out for symmetry. You'll tend to want to make it like into a square or a circle. It's just sort of human nature that we end up wanting to do that. It's a strange phenomenon. So I'm pulling this in thinking, what will that do? If I bend it here, what kind of a shape will that bring? It's sort of visualizing from this point, or this point, or this point, what kind of a flat base for the rock am I going to end up with? So I'm going to pull this in tighter. You could even go to here and tie it off. But I'm going to just have a little bit of a bend in the last part of it here. So that's the part of the rock that'll be flat on the ground, or the hillside, depends on what you're doing. If I'm doing one on a hillside, then I keep that in mind and I make the rocks come over and account for that pitch. If you do it on the hillside, if you do it and like you're doing the flats and you make your rock, then it looks like it's sort of sticking straight out of the hill, which may be fine. There's no problem. It does create a situation where it'll be weighted down, and then maybe this side of the rock will be upside down, a little bit more of a challenge to get mud to stick on it. So, let's see what I think about it. I'm going to pull it in a little bit. So we got it just about where we want it for that base. You see, I'm getting it to where it's pretty darn close, so I'm not having to wrestle with it. So there we have it. Okay, so that's the part that's going to be flat on the ground. Use the spinner, I do anyway, because it allows me to tie off wires with one hand. If you're trying to do it with a spool, a little tough to do. Always grab a little handful. Keep them loose in your hands and you'll get the tie wires out. If you hold them tight together, they do not want to come out. And you end up fighting with them, like, get me out of there. So you got to kind of keep it simple, keep it chill. So now we've got the base. Again, that's the flat part that goes on the ground, right? So here we have our starting point. So now this just needs to go up. So I'm going to flip this around and then give it a bend. Sometimes when you're bending it, things want to spin and twist. So you have to figure out a way to do it in a way that keeps it stable. So now you can put it flat on the ground, stand on it, and you can mess around with it a little bit. Okay, so I can see where it's going that way. So now I'm going to bend this over, put another bend in it. You can see how that's starting to shape up. So this is not exactly in the center, it's not flat, so you have a pitch going this way, which is good. When I'm making my rocks, I like to attach them with the flat part. You can see that. Flat part, so that makes it really lock in good. So now what I got to do is I got to attach all these parts together with my tie wires. And when you're doing the rock in the beginning, you want to do 2 ties, because otherwise they just flop around. You can see they're a little awkward and unstable. Wanted to get that over there, remember? Use your feet, your arms, your hips, whatever's going on. Loose in your hand to get them out. Otherwise, they'll grab. It's kind of like a little monkey game when you were a kid. Barrel of monkeys. They all hook. They all little arm hooks. These things are kind of like that. If you, by the way, spin to where it breaks, don't feel bad. I'm still spinning until they break. Even after almost 28 years doing this. Then we put 2 in, because you're going to be putting force on this in different directions as this part continues to need to be bent. Alright, so this is the second 10-foot piece of rebar. So we have to go somewhere with that. Well, it seems like given where it's on this side of this one, we can bend it that way. We can make it higher if we want to. So we'll make it a little bit higher in this corner. See how it's starting to... Now we're starting to get the different sides and planes of our rock. And use your feet. Use whatever you need to hold this sucker in place. Get in the middle of the bend somewhere. I also like to crisscross them. That gives it a little bit more of a stable tie off. we've got that there. So where am I gonna go next? Well, let's keep carrying this process up. I'll just spin it all the way around. And you can see it's stretched out that tie. So having two on there is a definite must. Definite plus. All these guys, you want to push them down sort of out of your way because they may end up being in the concrete being a problem. So you just kind of wrestle with it a little bit. So I'm going to come, I think, about to that same position. Well, maybe go a little lower. All right, so see this is it, man. It's as simple as that. In terms of the technique, again, the tendency is to make things symmetrical, and you find yourself making rocks that look like squares or too roundy. Again, I'm doing all this without the hickey bar. The bender bars, affectionately called hickey bars, can assist you in changing how things are handled as well. This piece already had a bend in it, but that's okay. We can use that to our advantage or not. Sometimes I put the rebar on the inside, and I like that because that gives additional strength. They're a little squirrely, they kind of run around on you a little bit. You want to overlap your rebars, good half to a quarter inch. That's this area right here. You want it to stick out because otherwise it'll pop free. These ones sometimes I'll do even more than two because especially if it's a project where you're using hickey bars a lot and putting a lot of force on the rebar, that can cause these ones that are finishing out to pop free. So now we have a good amount of stuff to continue making our rocks. Put over here, maybe they can see. And so it's got some asymmetry to it. It's got some nice angles. It goes flat to a bend. Our bottom footprint is kind of interesting. So I'd add another piece of rebar right here, maybe to here, and then loop it around and just shrink the gap. So, I mean, that is it. Remember to double tie when you're starting it off so stuff stays pretty stable. And if it was a 10-foot rock, it's all the same thing, just bigger lengths and bigger scale. Anytime along the way you can play with it and bend it. We'll talk about how to use the bender bars and stuff and what they allow you to do too. And notice on this one, this portion they're pretty parallel, but that's okay because it's just one spot. And that's something that's okay. It's okay to have areas of symmetry and stuff in rock. It's just overall you want to keep making sure it has some kind of a irregular but natural shape. So that's how you make a rock, man. Out of 3/8 inch rebar in terms of this shaping approach. Of course, you can make fake rocks out of a number of different things and different strategies and ways. You can use a pile of dirt and that can turn into a nice little dome, low-level stone. Foam, people use foam. If I use foam, I reinforce it with rebar everywhere. But rebar is the most common one. So here you go. That's how to make a rock with rebar and these little tie wires and the little spinny. All right, so there you go. So over here we have some samples of, again, student rocks who made these. This one was done by a student. Excellent shape. We have planes that are there. I'll move this out of the way. Flats, no right angles, and the pitch is leaning in. when you're doing these and you want to do them by hand, having it lean in the angle of repose makes hand applying concrete super easy. You just put it on there and you vibrate in. You want to get it around here as best you can, and that slows the rust. If it's exposed to air and moisture on the inside, it can rust. Chicken wire you can buy in a roll. This is a little piece, and you cut off pieces that you need to fit the area that you want it to fit. They're very pokey, and I almost invariably end up with blood being drawn. So these gloves really don't protect you. You can use the heavy leather ones. I just use this one and try to be careful, and I don't care about a little scratch. But so the chicken wire goes on the vertical surfaces, and if they lean in, it's much easier. You can do vertical shapes, and you can do things that lean out a little bit. It takes a little more finesse to get the concrete to stay there. And then on the inside, I started talking about chicken wire, but the burlap goes on first, and that comes in rolls. These are from Home Depot, like all the stuff I get. A big box store is usually the cheapest. So you lay out the roll of burlap and make a little extra, cut that piece, and then you put it on the inside, and we'll demonstrate that a little bit. I'm just doing a quick overview of the rebar technique and what is involved. What are the materials that you use? You use burlap and chicken wire, and this one shows a nice example of how to do that. Again, this size rock you could easily do with the dirt pile technique. Faster, as that technique demonstrates, as you've seen in other sessions. But it's a great student did a great job with this. They probably started with longer rock, longer rebar rather, probably a 10-foot stick. 5-foot sticks don't get you very far, as that piece of rebar I just showed you. This is also a student-made rock, and the shapes are good. It's doable. It's a little vertical here, so that'll be a challenge to get it to stick. But we will be putting on more chicken wire, and you pull it tight, and we'll be attaching it to these pieces of chicken wire with the hog rings, which that's what these are. And these are something in a fencing section of Home Depot where you do chain link fence, and this is meant to hold the chain link fence together. It could use another piece of steel, but this is the scale. It's small enough, doesn't need it, it's fine. Concrete's very strong, and when you combine it with chicken wire and rebar, these things last a long time, and they're very vigorous and strong. In this one, you also see the demonstration of spraying it with the Hopper mortar mix. Very wet mix, and that gave us the texture coat of our dirt rock number 1. This has been sprayed on here. The beauty of this is that I had extra, and that's why I did it. It goes over and around the rebar very well, protecting it from future rust potential. So this is something that's kind of nice to do if you wish. I don't usually do it just because it's an extra step, and the projects we build are well integrated into and around the rebar when we build them, so things get nice and covered, and we're in good shape with that. So we're gonna go ahead and show you a rebar rock that we are working on here, and this is going to be a larger stone. It's going to be a stone that I wanted to make it as a bench, and so we're going to talk about that here. But these are just the bubble size, the bubble rocks you can make with rebar. Again, these are student rocks that made these, having never done it before, so it's something you can learn. And I have videos on my YouTube channel about that in this course, and we'll be able to see how that process, going from the very beginning to the burlap phase to the chicken wire phase, and how that happens. But again, we're trying to use this only for the larger stones than this size, because both of these could have been done with the dirt stack type of approach. Make the dirt, make a shape, concrete over it. Harder on the verticals. You just have to flay out or splay out the bottom of it and have that pitch to stay on there. So we'll go ahead and take a look at that next.